Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Davis, and I just wanted to record a quick lesson on industrialization for you so that you had all the tools you needed so that you can pass this assessment, hopefully pretty quickly. So industrialization, we've been talking about this topic for a while now. Industrialization actually begins the really late 1700s, so it kind of overlaps with the time our U.S. Constitution was written. Now, early industrialization is on a small scale. In the late 1700s, we'll see simple inventions like the cotton gin, which make the production of cotton so much easier and really contributes to that boom in slavery and the growth of plantations. And we know that that will lead to a lot of conflict, and that will lead us really into the Civil War. But it's during and then especially after the Civil War that industrialization just takes off. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. What I really like about industrialization is we have a lot of awesome photographs, and you can see there's kids working in factories, and I think it really gives us a good look into what life was like for many factory workers at the time. So let's go ahead and get started. So Industrial Revolution really comes because of the Agricultural Revolution. So the Agricultural Revolution is a cause, the Industrial Revolution is an effect. And so what the Agricultural Revolution was, it included improved farming techniques. So the cotton gin wouldn't be part of that. But we're also talking about bigger machinery, like better plows, maybe eventually tractors. And what's going to happen is this is going to allow people to grow more food. And if you have more food, you have a bigger population. You can feed more people, and people might not die of hunger, for example. So more people are going to live and survive. So there was more food, more people, but now all of a sudden, because machines are making jobs easier, you actually need less people working in the fields. So what this does is it causes a lot of farmers to lose their jobs. They become unemployed. And those unemployed farmers now need a new source of income. So they oftentimes will move to the city for factory jobs. So unemployed farm workers are one group of people that help supply labor in the factories. And remember, labor means work. The Agricultural Revolution will then lead us to the Industrial Revolution. And this is where we see a shift from rural, meaning farm or countryside, to an urban economy, an economy based on factories in the city. Urban means city. With fewer workers that were needed on the farms, more people are now going to have to work in factories. So factories are going to grow and grow and grow. And you can see this picture on the right side here shows some guy on the farm, and then eventually he will have to move to the city to work in a factory. So what was the Industrial Revolution? It's kind of a long time period. I don't really care that our focus area is after the Civil War and after Reconstruction, because really the Industrial Revolution is an overlap. It's a really long time period that lasts for a while. So we can define the Industrial Revolution as a time of rapid industrialization, so factories, and urbanization, people living in cities, and those cities getting bigger. Industrialization is marked by machines. So machines make things faster, and then that in turn makes things cheaper. I think we take for granted how many factories there are around the world that help produce the goods we like to buy really cheap. So this is really the first time we see that, and it makes things more affordable for people, and they don't have to make things on their own. They don't have to make their own clothes and their own farm materials. They can just go now maybe to a store and buy them. So there's some things that contributed to industrialization. Americans loved inventing, so we say that spirit of invention. You think about someone like Eli Whitney, who was making the cotton gin and interchangeable parts. And then we have famous guys like Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb. It's just sort of part of our American identity and culture, making new things, making things better. At the same time as farm workers are moving to cities to start working in factories, we also see immigrants from Europe and from China and from Japan coming into the United States to also start working in those factories. So it's not just farm workers that are coming in and working in factories, but also immigrant workers. Now that might lead to some conflict, and we're going to talk about that, how the American farm workers really resent and are angry about the immigrants who are also coming in and trying to get those factory jobs. There's competition for jobs. But one thing that really helped the United States was we have a lot of natural resources. We have coal fields in Kentucky that can power the power plants and power the factories. Now we know that leads to pollution, and that's not a good thing. But we also have rivers that you can transport the goods up and down the Mississippi, for example. We have plenty of land to build new factories and land for cities to expand and grow. So the United States was set up really well to have the Industrial Revolution. So you might be familiar with some of these inventions that come out of this time period. For the first time ever, the telephone and telegraph. Now people can quickly communicate with each other in different parts of the country. Remember that America, the Story of Us documentary that we watched, and how the telegraph was really important for Abraham Lincoln as president to get communication about what was going on the battlefields during the Civil War. Really helps people communicate. We've talked a lot about the cotton gin and how that resulted in more slavery. It helped make the textile industry boom in the North. So the cotton was being picked and processed in the South by slaves, but the North's benefiting too, because now they can hire more workers and they can produce more clothing and textiles, so cloth materials. We'll see the sewing machine that kind of goes hand in hand with that. If you're going to produce clothing, you need something to sew those clothing with. So the sewing machine will be invented. And then, of course, what we love, the light bulb. Can you imagine when it gets dark out, you couldn't read, you couldn't really do any work because unless you had a candle. And those were few and far between, and they're not very bright. So the light bulb is really revolutionary because now people can be up day and night, and they can work in factories for longer hours. So clockwise in these pictures, you'll see these images. We have over here a telegraph machine, which uses Morse code to communicate, so coded. It's kind of like a coded text message. An early telephone. The sewing machine is down here. This one would have been hand cranked, but eventually they would have been hooked up to electricity. And then you can see the cotton gin and a really early version of a light bulb, very different than what we're used to today. So one impact of the Industrial Revolution was urbanization. So urbanization is just a fancy word for the growth of cities. People are moving away from the farms and into a city, from rural to urban. So people are moving. We sometimes call this like population geography or movement geography, where people choose to move and live in new places. And the reason why people had to now live in cities was because they might work a 12-hour shift in a factory, and they needed to live close by. If you're going to work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you can't live an hour away. You need to be close to where you work. There was a surplus in food because of that agricultural revolution, so now there's more people, and those people need jobs. And they will move to the cities to take on those factory jobs. And then, of course, we have immigrants, and they're arriving to cities. That's their first stop, places like New York or Los Angeles. You might have heard of Ellis Island in New York. So their first stop is going to be in a city. And if you don't have a lot of money, you can't go much further than that. You kind of have to stop where you're at and hopefully get a job and make some money. So here's some great photographs of urbanization. I want you to notice how crowded the streets are. If anyone's been to a big city, I mean, Cincinnati's a good example, but there's even larger cities like Chicago, New York, maybe Washington, D.C. Streets are crowded. And look at this here. You can see there's horse and wagons, there's people in the streets, there's carts selling things. It was a busy, crowded time. You can also see that the living conditions were not great. Poor workers, oftentimes immigrants, they were forced to live in these awful tenement housings where they're just kind of piled in. People stacked on each other. Very unpleasant, very crowded. And another downside to urbanization and industrialization is pollution. So really a lot of our climate issues that we face today kind of go back to this time period, with a huge amount of coal and pollution being just spewed into the atmosphere. It made it hard to breathe. It made cities feel dirty. It wasn't really that great, but it was sort of an unintended consequence of this growth of both cities and of factories. Now with factories, most people who worked in factories were very poor and they had to work for very little money. But there were a few people that got to benefit a lot, and we call them robber barons. Sometimes they're called captains of industry. These are the business owners. They are providing new goods and services for the American people, but it's often at the expense of their workers who are very poor. They're not treated well. They oftentimes might get hurt on the job, and no one really cares about their safety. So robber barons, and we'll look at a few individuals. Now, they kind of come up with this idea that business owners are meant to help society, so many of these business owners will build museums and libraries and maybe colleges, but they're still not paying their workers a lot, and their workers are still kind of suffering every day. But their innovations are really going to be important for the United States, and as we move towards the 1900s, the world wars are getting closer, World War I and World War II. And it's the United States industry that is able to provide resources to the European countries that are going to war. And so that will help the United States gain a lot of money and become very powerful. So some examples of famous robber barons. You definitely need to know Carnegie and Rockefeller. Carnegie is up here, Andrew Carnegie. He was the robber baron that was in charge of the steel industry. And you need steel to build things like skyscrapers. We'll also see John D. Rockefeller. He'll be head of an oil company or petroleum, and that could then be used to fuel factory machines and eventually cars, airplanes, all the things that we are so used to today. J.P. Morgan, for example, was the head of the banking industry, and his bank is still around today. So just some impacts of industrialization. Urbanization is a big one. People are moving to cities, and cities will now get bigger and bigger. Immigration. Workers from all over the world, especially at this time China, Ireland, Russia, they're coming to the United States to have a better life. They're looking for a new opportunity, and they're going to get work in those factories. And this is going to lead to a boom in new cultures. I mean, think about it. We celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Chinatown is part of New York City life, so they bring with them their culture. On the downside, people become a lot more consumeristic. They want to buy more things because things are cheap, and we can get them faster, and it doesn't take so long to produce them, so let's buy them. And then, of course, pollution and poor living conditions. Those are definitely not some good side effects, some negatives. So here are some interesting pictures of immigrants. The Statue of Liberty in New York has sort of been an icon of American opportunity, of immigrants starting a new life. But the reality is it was a hard life. Many did not speak the language. They often did not have a lot of money. They maybe didn't have much skill. So they often had to live in really poor housing conditions and take very low-paying jobs. And of course, American workers did not like these immigrants coming in. So there was a lot of issues, and we'll talk about that in our next focus area. Here's just some advertisements that sort of show this rise of consumerism. By the 1900s, Henry Ford will have created his car. There'll be typewriters, telephones, and advertisements become a thing. We now want people to buy the products that are being made. But you can see pollution. It's improved. We are a little bit more conscious of the things we put into our environment, but it's still not a great situation. But it definitely did start in that time period. I'm going to stop this video here for a second, check back in for part 2.